Hi, I'm Chris Brooks and I'm the proud owner of a business called inout House and Garden Remodelling, and I just thought you may be interested in this presentation that I made for some business colleagues recently. Of course, as the name suggests, it's a business dealing with house and garden design, manage and build. So let's get straight on, because I don't want to take too much of your time. The first part of this presentation deals with the garden side of my business, and it starts when you make an inquiry and obviously finishes when I hand over a garden that hopefully exceeds your expectations. And the process we go through on that is that I send you a client questionnaire, and you complete that. Tell me a bit about yourselves, bit about what you want out of the garden, what you want in the garden, and you get that back to me, and I have a look at it before we then meet. And when we do meet, we use that questionnaire as a sort of a discussion point, so that I can define your brief and tweak out of you what you want, and then at the same time I do a site survey, dimensions, photographs, and possibly pH of the ground conditions, and then get back to you within normally a week to confirm the brief, and with a few sketch drawings, so that we can both ensure I'm on the right wavelength. And at that point, that completes the end of the sort of free consultation period, and at that point I present a fee for what I'm about to provide, which is normally presentation drawings, a planting plan and schedule, construction details, and if you want me to go out to tender, which I always like to do, get more than one quote for doing the hard and the soft landscaping, to make sure you get in value for money. I can price the job myself. I'm happy to do that, but I always think that it's better if you get competitive quotes, and then you're assured that you're getting the right price for the job. And if that's the case, I then stay with you to ensure that the subcontractors do what they say they want to do in terms of quality. Don't charge you any more than what they should be doing. I always recommend that you don't change anything once we've sent out the tender documents, so their price remains the price from the start to the finish, and therefore it is important that we make sure that you get on the drawings exactly what you're looking for. So I also do a plant selection. I've already identified the plants that I think are suitable for you and for the garden, but I like to offer a service where, if you've got the time, we go and visit a nursery and you get to see and feel and smell the plants that I've selected. And then once the whole job's complete, I then produce a maintenance schedule and regime, to ensure that the garden looks as good in 5 years' time as it does when we've completed it. So I'm now going to show you a few examples of gardens that I've undertaken recently. This one's at Danbury in Essex. The salient features of this garden, a reasonable sized garden, was that we had a garden room and outdoor kitchen, and it was located such that the sun shone on it for most of the day, which meant it had to be away from the house. The way I ensured that was I run what's called a solar animation program, and that just tracks the movement of the sun across the garden during the day, summer and winter, just to make sure that we've got it in the right position. So that was the first feature. Second feature was a living wall, where I had to deal with a few specialists, but it was to reduce the noise and sight from a nearby school, and we did that by constructing a concrete wall and putting a living wall, which is vertical planting with irrigation in front of it, so that you didn't get the sort of intrusive nature of the concrete wall so close to the house. Client was delighted with that because she'd seen one at Chelsea Gardens. So we don't just present that presentation plan, we give a planting plan and schedule. We follow that up with some construction details. Simple, well thought out details. I've been in the industry for 30 years, so I always believe that if they're simple detail, easy to construct, they'll be the cheapest. So that's what I produce. But not only that, I use a program called Vectorworks, which enables me to design in 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions, and produce 3-dimensional isometric drawings like this. And I think with these kind of drawings you start to get a feel for the garden much more than just looking at a plan. It also enables me to take views at ground level, and those are 4 examples there of views from within the garden. And again, really making sure that the client gets to know what they want in. The beauty of Vectorworks is that I don't mind making changes necessary to make sure you get exactly what you want. Often there is a reluctance once the drawing's been complete to change it, certainly if it's been hand drawn, because it's a lot of work in changing it. It never looks as good as it does the first time. So that's why I use Vectorworks. Most of my jobs are accompanied by a little brochure to tell you the inspiration I've drawn from, the reference points, and the whole concept behind the garden. It also gives you an indication of what plants I've used and various salient features of the garden. So that's the whole package we give you, just to make sure you know what you're getting. Very important. This is a garden called Ugly Cottage Garden. It's particularly ugly. It's a place in Essex. It's on the Essex-Hertfordshire border, and a quite large garden. You get a start to feel of the size of the garden, because on the top right hand side there's a tennis court. We were doing the garden in phases because of the size of it. And the first phase we were looking at was a shady corner of the garden where we put lots of plants that love shade. That area is a little bit liable to flooding, so we incorporated a pond in there. And again, with that, we provided some a planting schedule and plan, and lots of images. I spend a lot of time actually also modelling the houses, because the house always acts as a backdrop. You have to know how the house fits into the garden and vice versa. So that's one of the images we produced for this project. We modelled the whole site, and that took about 48 hours to actually render that drawing. It took so long because of the amount of detail that we put into it. Rendering is the last process that the drawing goes through before we can get it printed. And as you can see there, there's a tennis court, and the outbuildings and the house, and there's the size of the garden. So that's what we presented. We also produced a mood board. A mood board creates the mood that we're trying to create in the garden. Lots normally concentrates on the soft elements, the planting elements of the garden, because that normally provides the mood. And hard landscaping materials, we often provide samples, so you get to feel the materials that we're proposing for the hard, the paving and the wall construction of the garden. Again, it was accompanied by a brochure. So again, that was the whole package we delivered for that, and the client knew exactly what they were going to get, and we changed it a number of times to make sure that they got exactly what they were looking for. Hampton Court. This is a small garden, so we don't just do large gardens. This was a small garden that we presented, hopefully, for the Hampton Court exhibition for 2011. So that was the presentation plan and the planting plan and schedule. That's the isometric we did. We didn't do any views in this particular case because it was for Hampton Court. I believe that they obviously knew what they were looking at in terms of plans and isometrics. But if it had been for a client, we'd have produced lots of views. It was focused on an urban garden for a family of 4. That's to add 2 adults, 2 children, very small children. And so what we included in this particular garden was a low bed full of child-friendly plants, so they could get in amongst them, touch them, feel them and smell them, and even taste them without any harm at all. The concept behind the garden was the Golden Mean and Fibonacci series, and I'm not going to bore you with that, but it relates to a triangle that's been considered over many centuries. Even the Egyptians, Romans used it. They thought it was a triangle that had certain features in the sides, and the Fibonacci series is a mathematical model that relates to how plants grow. So that's a quite heavy concept, but I think it produced a very light feel to the garden, and fingers crossed that we get it pointed. So small garden, urban garden. The next one, back to large garden. This was the whole garden was 160 acres. We were concentrating on the formal part of the garden to give you some idea of that. That's looking at a lawn, formal lawn, and from start to finish it was about 75 metres long. That was the hard landscaping. That's the soft landscaping. There was another area which was quite interesting. It's called the swimming pool terrace, and it dropped about 4 metres from top to bottom, and that's certainly where the Vectorworks program comes into its own, because I could actually model the hillside and therefore make sure that the steps worked on the hillside and the plants worked on the hillside, rather than just looking at it as a plan drawing there. Lots of images on this project. We were presenting it to the project manager for the site, not to the direct client. So it's very important that we produce lots of images to make sure that the client understood what we were giving him, rather than relying on the project manager describing what we were going to do. That there was quite a large dining area and outdoor kitchen. It had two glass canopies over the two individual areas, and quite a modern feature for what was quite a dated garden in terms of the existing features within the garden. But I think it sat very nicely in there. And we didn't want to mimic the sort of old features, but we enhanced them. Again, lots of images there. That was one of the mood boards we presented. A combination of photographs and virtual images of the garden, and that's just one showing the existing pagoda. Returning back down to the mansion, we introduced this water rill that actually linked that pagoda to the mansion. At the head of the garden was a fountain, and at the toe there was a fountain. The reason for that was, although it felt like it was in the country when you were in that garden because of the size of it, it actually was quite close to the M25, and you could just hear a rumble of traffic noise in the distance, and we masked that by the introduction of lots of water features. So it was the largest estate in the country. So those are just a few examples of what we're currently doing. Just to summarise, my name's Chris Brooks. The business is In-Out House and Garden Remodelling. My telephone number is 01371 820600. Mobile number is 07876 331 809. My email address is chris.brooks@in-out.uk.com. And just to summarise, great attention to detail, focused on your understanding of what you want, and we deliver what you want. Total control from start of the project to the finish, including the design and approval periods. And don't forget that free consultation period. That's certainly free from that, certainly this year 2010, and probably in the early part of 2011. And not only do we give you the drawings, but often we give you cost and program advice as well within that fee. And I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed presenting it, and that might be the end of this part of the presentation, but I'm hoping it might be the start of the realisation of your dreams. So do get in touch, certainly just for that free consultation period. And there is a second part to this which deals with the house side of the business, so I'd hope you'd take some time to listen to that as well. So for now, it's bye from me. Cheers.